Good morning. Welcome to the first iteration of Meet the HIVE. I'm Luke Sheppard, principal of Sheppard Company Consulting and a proud member of the HIVE Quick Response Advisory Board. This morning I'm here with Steve Ross. Steve is the founder and the president of HIVE Quick Response. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. How you doing, Luke?
I'm doing great, Steve. Awesome to see you again. Really excited to have this discussion this morning, Steve, about HIVE Quick Response. You know, what the company is, what the platform is, your motivations in starting up this company, and what it can do for our customers. Really exciting stuff coming up. So, Steve, let's start off with just a bit of your background. You've had a really interesting career in the material handling equipment world, in construction equipment. You know, a technician by trade initially, and kind of came full circle back into this HIVE Quick Response platform. Tell me a bit about your career, your background, your experience, and how it led to the inspiration for HIVE Quick Response.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. When I started, my father was very big on trades, and I raced cars when I was a kid, and he helped me get an internship or an apprenticeship at a construction equipment dealer working in the engine shop, and that's where I started learning from the guys who are very experienced. You know, from there I went into the field and then eventually went into sales and the rental side of the construction world where they rented smaller construction type equipment. And then eventually I answered an ad in the material handling equipment side, went in as a salesperson, which again is kind of led to, you know, I started selling, sales manager, then ran the businesses. So that got me back into service. Then I eventually ran a multi-branch location for factory-owned dealerships that we had 11 locations, and that was a great experience, and learning again across the country some of the same challenges exist all the way across. From there I eventually in 2011 started 2009 the economy was struggling, so I started actually consulting, helping dealerships in 2011, was asked to help, and then have done that in my career up until about a year and a half ago when we started the HIVE Quick Response business. So a long career of, you know, from a technical side, that's how I think, problem solving, that's what technicians do every day.
So you approach the problem of service, I think, from a very unique perspective. What are some of the problems, or I would say challenges, that you've seen both throughout your career, so that you've seen, but also even see today, with how service requests are made, you know, both in MHE and the CE industries, but certainly, you know, this could almost be said for any industry in terms of how service calls are being placed. What are some of the challenges that you've seen in terms of how service calls are being placed today?
Yeah, because it's interesting, if I go back to my career as a tech in the field and you drove out, you know, an hour to a construction site, you're in the middle of a construction site. Back then, obviously no cell phones. So you went out there completely blind. The customer called in and you know, most of the calls were repeated calls. You had to go back out there after you learned what happened. So, you know, lack of information during that time. And then, you know, in my career of listening to service calls coming in, being out in front of customers, the biggest pain point is getting the right information, the right serial number, the right unit, and even knowing what's happening with the unit. You know, they tell you, you know, or you hear a tilt lever is, or the tilt's not working. And then you think it's a hydraulic tilt and you find out it's the steering wheel.
Right.
You know, so getting good information has always been a challenge. Customers reading data plates, you know, I can't read it. It's the orange one, you know, come out and fix it. And so it's been a generational problem of getting the right information. So frustration on both sides. Then email comes along, and of course emails, we all get too many emails today, and getting the right information, making sure the serial number, so then those emails go back and forth. I've been out in front of customers who are arguing that the bill's too high, and a lot of it stated back to the original information we had. So we had to go out there twice to fix it. And that's what was the inspiration for service calls, trying to find a solution to that problem.
You know, it's amazing, Stephen. We've had this chat many times in the past. My experience in CE in the construction equipment world is very similar to yours in the material handling world. And I've seen the same kinds of things materialize as well, that, you know, when the service call request is placed, oftentimes the service department is overwhelmed with incoming calls or emails, missing information, to your point about, you know, go repair the yellow machine or the orange machine. So often that initial information, which helps define the success of the call, is missing on the front end.
Yeah, it really is. And it's, you know, drives a lot of frustration for customers, because you have to go out there and see them, and they may not understand the back end side of what the dealership goes through just to get a work order open and to get the technician out there is a very complex process.
Right, right. So how does HIVE Quick Response address these problems?
So what we did was we created a digital platform so we could ensure that the right information, the right location of the unit, it gets to the dispatcher with enough information that they can plan that call in advance. And that's, it begins back at the very beginning. We have an encrypted decal that goes onto the machine. The customer has an app on their phone, very simple, open the app, you stay logged in, you scan that encrypted decal, you note what the issue is, you state whether the unit's operational or not. Obviously, that helps them prioritize the call. If it's not down, it's a different priority than when it's completely down and you're not producing. From there, after they scan it, they note the issue. You take a photo of the issue and you hit send. And again, because it's cloud-based, immediately it's in the dealer's portal to take the next step. They can review that call. They can open a work order because they have the right serial number. They have all the information they need and the photo and what you reported as the issue. And they can then begin to pre-plan the call. Does Luke have that switch on? The switch is bad. Is there hydraulic leak? Do they need to get that hose?
Right.
The lights are out, whatever that is. They can plan that call in advance. That was never possible before by just a phone call or just an email without enough information. Right. And even the tech getting out on site, because they don't have the information, the customer probably doesn't realize this, but the tech has to call back in to get a work order open to the right unit so they have maintenance history. Without it open to the right unit, you get no fleet information, so it has to be open to the right unit. And that's a part of the frustration between both sides. So that's how we address it. It becomes digital, and then the tech scans it when they're on site, so it alerts the customer that they're there, they know, and then also when it's complete, it falls off and it helps the dealership, dispatcher, and the customer stay informed on where they are in the call. And there's several things a dispatcher can do to communicate throughout the call as well.
Okay, so it sounds like, Steve, it's a pretty easy process. That I have my phone as a customer on site. I can scan the code that's on the machine, take a picture of the phone, enter in the current state of the machine, if it's down, if it's up, what needs to be addressed. That information gets transferred then to the service dispatcher. It sounds like it's a pretty easy process overall, both phone-based and web platform-based. And it really helps with the communication between the customer and the service department.
Yeah, and for the customer, it's 45 seconds or less. That's even opening the app. You stay logged in, you hit start, you're in, and you immediately scan it, and you're right to the unit. So it's immediate. And so 45 seconds, they have that information, everything that they need. That sometimes sitting on the phone on hold for 20 minutes. Then you're hitting 4 and 6 and 3. Then you finally get to somebody you think, and it's their voicemail, right? You leave a voicemail, you don't know if they got the call, the right information. So it's a frustrating process. It's such a partnership on that service call. If you don't get the right information, it's costly to both sides. And, if it's a rental unit, if it's a full maintenance unit as well, the dealership is paying for that too.
Right. So Steve, as you know, I've had the chance to use the app a little bit, but walk me through again, what information specifically is included in the app? What does the customer record when they request that service, the service call?
Right, so all pre-set up is all the unit serial number, the customer number, all the locations are set up in advance. So it's almost like pre-planning the call in advance. So the data's in there. And then when they actually scan that encrypted call, it goes right to that unit record. So it's not like it's a very unique encrypted decal because it goes to the record, it knows the customer. It also has a geo stamp. So if you move machines around from buildings or out in the field, it'll actually pinpoint right where the unit is as well. So if you're sending a technician there, it could be in building 1, 2, 3. It could be on the side of the road on 436. It could be out in the middle of a field somewhere, and that all directs you to where it is. So there's a lot of information that comes in at the dispatchers right on their portal that they can look at all that information.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, it's amazing, Steve, in terms of the thoroughness. So, as an example, let's assume that I'm a material handling equipment dealer or a construction equipment dealer. I know that I need to improve my service request process because of all the problems and challenges that you just went through as well. It's an issue for me today. I need to get tighter with how quickly I can dispatch my technicians, but also do so in a way that's efficient for my customers. How can HIVE Quick Response help my customers and me?
Right. So the frustration on the customer side oftentimes is getting the right information in. So the fact that we already have part of the call pre-planned by the encrypted decal, when you scan that, all that information comes right back to the customer. They know on the app that they're placing a call for the right unit. So the next steps are very simple. Is it up or down? And I enter the information. So the customer value is immediate. Once you install those encrypted decals on the units, that's all they do is they scan that. It knows exactly what the unit is.
Right.
And from there, in 45 seconds, the call's in. So it's really that simple for the customer. And the customer peace of mind is they know they've given every bit of information that gives the dealer the best chance to come out and fix it on the first call. So between the photos, between the information, it's already pre-call planning. Now the next steps inside the dealership. The dealership, this transforms dispatching in that I can actually plan further because I know much more information right away. So I'm not looking for the serial number. I'm not trying to find where it is on the email. I'm not listening to the call over and over again and trying to write that down and then go enter it into my ERP, my business system. So really immediately as a MHE dealer, the minute that they're set up and it's encrypted, you're in business. You're getting the right information right from the beginning. And that's the value to the customer because again, I go back to this is a partnership, Luke. It really is between the customer. Customer doesn't provide information, the dealer can't take the right action. Then it costs them both more time because they're going back and forth either on the email and delaying actually the machine getting up and running and repaired, especially if it's down. And what we learned in reviewing a lot of the data is 60% of the calls that come in are mechanical visual issues. And that's why you can increase your first call completion by slowing down planning and probably actually get the customer back up and running faster because you can see it. We have numerous pictures of the obvious that came in, the lights aren't working and you see the lights smash, just on and on. This is the hydraulic hose is leaking. You can actually see the hydraulic hose. So it's a game changer for the dealership, and the value for the customer is it's really short time. And I'm not, I walk to the machine and I'm placing that call. I don't have to wait on hold. I'm not texting somebody. That's, a frequent thing today. It's really, texting is a nice feature, but it's also very time consuming. It's time consuming if whoever's on the other end, they text the technician and he's off today. They text somebody in the office and they're not in. And next thing I think I've placed that call, but I haven't.
Right.
Nobody sees it, right? So I'm not getting action taken. And then I still wonder where this is cloud, we're both looking at the same database by placing that call. And that's why it's immediate and fast. And the encryption, the security that's built into this, there's a lot of security. We could go through that in another call, Luke, but the security levels are huge to make sure only authorized people can place the call, that the customer said is okay to place it. From protecting data, from security levels, our security company, was very thorough on making sure that nobody could hack our system easily. There's just, obviously that's really a big important thing today to make sure nobody can mess with the system and cause issues. So security-wise, there's a lot of features built into that make it secure.
Certainly, we know that cybersecurity right now within the dealership, the distribution world is a major focal point, and couldn't agree more that having a communication method or a platform like this, which is secure, I think is obviously very critical. Steve, as you're talking through this, I can't help but think about again my own experiences in the CE world with first-time repair, uptime being such a critical factor for the industry as well. But the machines need to be up and running, and to get back up and running as soon as possible. So what HIVE QR does, and this has been part of my motivation and passion for your passion, is really address some of these fundamental concerns like the response time, the first call fix, the right information being communicated the first time as well, making it easier for the service department to also understand what's happening in the field. And then of course for the technician on site to be able to do let's say a much more thorough job getting the machine up and running that first time out of the gate. It really is powerful. So Steve, I want to come back to just one of the comments you mentioned about the true partnership. If you had to leave, let's say this discussion to folks listening in with 3 or 4 key takeaways, one of the key points being, as you mentioned, the true partnership between the customer and the dealership. What would those 3 or 4 takeaways be?
The interesting thing about the partnership is that we can learn together, right? So the customer, when the customer sends in information, the dispatcher can talk to the customer and say, hey, if we would have had a picture of this, we would have had a better chance to fix that. We can continue to learn together. The great thing is you really have, the information is game changing. The partnership side of providing information, the customer is not an expert on the machine, the dealership is.
Right.
So you've made it very easy for them to be more of an expert by providing that and the information, and we can continue to learn together. And our history keeps track of all that. You can go back and look at any service call. You can see the picture that came in. You can see when the call came in. You know, we have real response time, real first call completion, you know, first call completion on whether the unit was up or down reported. It's interesting how many units were not complete when it was obvious that the unit was still running. And yet we are sometimes rushed to send a tech out because we haven't had the information, the pre-call plan. And so that costs the customer and it costs the dealership, depending on if it's a rental or if it's a full maintenance type unit. And from the customer standpoint, you know, it may be something that, you know, what they're paying for, that they can drive that right information in, and they have a much better chance of, and they will lower their costs by working together. That's the partnership. You know, it's a generational problem. You know, bad info costs everybody.
Yep.
And not enough info costs everybody. And how many times technicians are calling in because they need a work order because they don't get the right unit until they get on site. You know, those are things that customer learn they can save themselves money by making sure they provide that information. And that's what we provide in the platform, that it's 100% accurate. You scan it, you send it in, you're going to get the right serial number.
Right.
So it's pretty awesome. And, you know, again, reducing frustration of going back and forth is huge, and redefining the dispatcher can spend more time doing what they do best, and that's looking to see how they can help the customer.
Well, Steve, this has been awesome. You know, we've covered, and your passion is incredible for this, Steve. You know, for solving the problem. You know, you're a process guy. You've been a process guy, as I know you to be for most of your career. You're bringing that process discipline and passion to a problem that has been underserved to your point, for generations. You know, for a very long time. So today we touched on really three key things: the problem that HIVE Quick Response can solve, the problems, how it works from the customer standpoint, but also from the dealer standpoint, and the benefits to the customer and to the dealer. So, you know, again, for folks that want to learn more, how would you recommend they reach out to you?
So they go to our website, hiveqr.com. We have a lot of information on there. We have a video that kind of goes over the problem and then simply walks you through the steps that solve that, you know, that shows the partnership of the customer and the dealership, how working together, they can help each other. And from there, you can request information. Just click on the request information, request a demo, and we would love to talk with you. You know, again, we want to learn the process and the pain points you're having. Some of them are different depending on the industry you're in. And we'd love to learn, because we are problem solvers. We'll continue to find a way to make a better workflow, simplify it for everybody. And I would just leave you with this, Luke. Morale is the #1 competitive advantage in any business. I've seen morale turn on a dime just by not having enough information, and people get frustrated. This, to me, this is another way to help make people in their jobs do, you know, simplify what they're doing and keep the morale up, because I'm not frustrated with things that are simple like this that can be solved. Because morale is a big one.
Well said, Steve. Again, as always, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. And for those watching or listening in, stay tuned for the next version of Meet the Hive. Thanks, Steve. Have a great day.
Thank you, Luke. You too.